let's talk more football, but this time not American football. Let's go across our state to Kansas City via Google Hangout to Greg Cotton, Chief of Staff and General Counsel at Sporting KC. The Sporting KC, the soccer team there. You had a MLS team for some time, I believe. Help us with the history, but you've got a new name and a new stadium. Can you get us up to speed on how Sporting KC has come to where it's be? Because I believe your name, the fame is growing across the state and across the country.
It's nice of you to say. Yes, we started out as the Kansas City Wiz, believe it or not. That was our first name. And then we changed pretty quickly to the Wizards, which was not much of a name. And then we rebranded in 2010 to Sporting Kansas City. And that corresponded with a brand new stadium on the western edge of Kansas City, a $200 million stadium. And we've had a couple successful seasons, culminating in a U.S. Open Cup championship in 2012, and then a MLS Cup championship in 2013. So it's been a long process to get the team to the point of relevancy in Kansas City and in Missouri and in Kansas and in the Midwest. But I think we're there now. So
okay, so
feels good.
So tell us how you did it. I have a sister that lives there who never played or saw a soccer game in her life until she moved to Kansas City, and she is a wild and crazy fan. And you've got a lot of stories like that. How have you had this success?
Well, it's interesting. I mean, Kansas City, along with St. Louis, have always been two of the largest per capita soccer populations in the United States. And we took advantage of kind of that latent demand for professional soccer, which really had not been capitalized on in Kansas City, and built a brand that was based around kind of a European fun party atmosphere. We built a stadium that has a bunch of kind of fractured spaces and a bunch of different clubs and party areas and big supporter sections. With the view to trying to create a European or a South American or Mexican style atmosphere in our stadium, and it's worked. And the other thing that's worked really well for us is we have a bunch of local players, kids that grew up in Kansas City that play on our team. I'll give you an example. There's a guy by the name of Matt Beasler, who's basically the MVP of our team, that grew up in Kansas City. He's playing at an all-star level for our team, and is going to start for the U.S. national team most likely in the World Cup. So a combination of all of those things, the brand, the new stadium, and some success with some local players really did it.
Okay, so I'm learning my sister likes to party. That's how she became a soccer fan. I got that. Okay, you built the brand, but you also built the stadium, and you built a lot of stuff around it. Tell us where and why, and also how. We've talked about public financing here a little bit as well. Can you bring us up to speed on where your team plays and how that's come to be?
Sure. What we did was we designed three different stadiums in Kansas City. We designed one on the Kansas side, one on the Missouri side, and ended up back on the Kansas side. We ended up with a public-private financing scheme on the Kansas side that involved a financing vehicle called Star Bonds, which are different than kind of the TIF that's available in Missouri. And we had a really nice TIF, a $275 million TIF on the Missouri side, but that was in early 2008 when the world fell apart, and Citibank's trading at $1 a share, and no new incremental. The I in TIF is obviously incremental, so nothing new was really being built. And so Star Bonds, you can capture all the sales tax revenue in a existing district and use those to pay for your amenity. So that's what we did, and we put in, our owners put in quite a bit of private financing as well, and ended up with a stadium that's the most technically advanced and fan-centric stadium in the world. And so, that's what we did, and that's how we paid for it.
I talk about the development around there. How does that work with what you've got going on?
Well, the area is called Village West. It's in Kansas City, Kansas, actually, and there was a speedway there. There's Kansas Speedway is located there. There's also this is an amazing story, but there's a store called the Nebraska Furniture Mart, which does $650 million in retail out of one location. It's the largest retail establishment in one location in the world. And so that generates so much tax revenue that the unified government is able to build amenities like Sporting Park. and attract even more development as it continues to. We as part of our deal with the unified government, there were 4,000 new jobs that were brought to the area by two of our owners who are primary shareholders in a company called Cerner Healthcare Software Company. And so they used the draw of sport and the attraction of sport to do some significant eco-devo work in KC.
And tell us more. I'm guessing you would argue that it ripples out from there, the success of Sporting KC for the economic and other advantages for the rest of the region.
Well, it does. We've been fortunate enough to host not only a MLS championship and an MLS All-Star game, but the U.S. national team, both men's and women's, have played in our stadium. For the next 4 years, we're going to host men's and women's Division II and III national championships in soccer, as well as Division II men's football championship in our stadium. And so you're seeing significant economic development that is spurned out of that. In addition, we did about a $13.5 million expansion in our urban park, kind of like Forest Park in St. Louis. We have a park called Swope Park, and we built a training center and an urban soccer park there as well. And so that will generate a significant amount of economic activity in that area as well. And that's all kind of based on the success of Sporting Kansas City and what our ownership has been able to put together.